reaction was, sir.
A little too salty.
Little too salty, with all due respect. I was very angry. I could not believe it, quite frankly. I had hoped for much more from my Coast Guard after all these years. Maybe I had prayed for much more from my Coast Guard after all these years. And to find out that, one, it was still true, but even worse, that they then covered it up was just absolutely the worst. And became extremely angry, and then even more frustrated. And then a group of us older, grayer-haired veterans got together and built a coalition to start trying to fight the problem. So that would be how the reaction was. In seeing the report, you can see that I have this stack of reports here. If I could just talk about that. I'm a little bit of a geek sometimes with some of this stuff, so I sort of carry some of these things around, which gosh knows why I do this. But we can go back to a 2016 report, which was by Admiral Zumkov, the Commandant then, talks about a culture of respect and that we have to relook at our core values. We can talk about the diversity report done by then Commandant Schultz, talks about a culture of respect and needing to look at the core values. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about this other hidden report. That's that Culture of Respect report from 2015, which was also covered up. Interestingly enough, that report that was covered up, that was just released in conjunction with the accountability and transparency report. The task force was actually put together with the intent to look at sexual assault training, to address respect issues, and to improve our culture. That was its purpose, ironically. And that was looked at from August of 2011 to March of 2012. The report was issued in April of 2015, and that was hidden until the release of our report with the accountability and transparency report. When I look at this report and I look at all these other reports, I say to you, I don't believe it. What's different with this report than any of these other reports that have been done for the last many years, sir?
No shortage of reports. It's a shortage of action.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, Lieutenant McCafferty, you described that trip to New York that you took with a fellow cadet. One factor that impacts a cadet's decision to report or not to report is the fear of being punished for collateral misconduct, whether it's drinking or taking a trip with another cadet. Was that a fear among your fellow cadets in deciding not to report? And I'll ask the same question of others who are here.
Thank you for that question, Senator. Yes, that was absolutely a fear of mine. I had knowingly gone to New York City with an upper class cadet, and we have very strict fraternization rules. So I was aware of that. And, I take responsibility. And for years, I actually blamed myself for what happened because I made my decision. I made that decision. And in terms of the culture, I had repeatedly over the years, my 4 years at the academy, seen countless cadets penalized for minor infractions, I would argue minor infractions, that ultimately led to a sexual assault or a rape. I have witnessed male cadets, one of whom was date raped, found in a basement, completely naked. No one was ever held accountable, and he was restricted for imbibing alcohol. Another classmate was restricted after reporting a rape for drinking alcohol. Another classmate never reported a rape because she too drank alcohol. The focus and the priorities belie logic here. Like, you don't have to be a scientist to know that when a rape occurs, you do not blame the person for ingesting alcohol, no matter what the amount. And in my case, even though I went to New York City, I was stone cold sober. I had nothing to drink. But yet the fear they instill in us and the ability to skate on any level of accountability is breathtaking. They will use whatever means they can to downplay the action, and they will penalize the victim who speaks up with the courage and integrity to speak the truth. And having worked for the Commandant myself, I have worked in the front office. I have worked for these officers. I have seen these senior leaders in action. This culture is not isolated to the academy. When I say senior leaders, I use those words deliberately. I use those words very precisely because these senior leaders currently, and those who have since been honorably retired or quietly asked to resign, continue in this behavior. They continue to pick and choose which infraction to enforce and upon whom, many of which are defenseless enlisted members, young and mid-grade officers, and none of them are themselves. I have attached in my written reports at least 10 accounts from women currently in the fleet who have had countless times and interactions with admirals and above, documenting their behavior, their abhorrent behavior, and yet no one has come forward and held each other accountable. I am well aware of this issue. It is not isolated to the academy, and like my colleague Jen has stated, it has been issued time and time and time again. In every single report, we have it. We have the data, we have the analytics, but the unspoken and the unwritten rule is the Flag Corps and the captains will look out only for themselves. They will not hold each other accountability, and they will not exercise their authority under the UCMJ. And either they're incapable or otherwise unwilling to do so. Every single time we have these discussions, we end up here today promising future-oriented action. Faith in the Coast Guard within its own members is destroyed. It is not eroded, it is destroyed. And the only way senior leaders can even hope to fix this is to go through every single member of the Flag Corps who was involved in these disgraceful cover-ups, to bring them out of retirement, which they have the authority to do, and to hold them accountable under the UCMJ.
Thank you. A central element of this cover-up, the culture of cover-up, is blame the victim. It's one of the oldest tactics in denying justice for sexual assault. I'm going to turn to the ranking member, but let me just assure everyone here, so far as this committee is concerned, we're not going to fire and forget. We're going to pursue what you've told us and make sure that there is accountability.